DAAR Communications plc has alleged that its subsidiaries, Africa Independent Television and Ray Power FM, are being persecuted by the National Broadcasting Commission (NBC) on instruction from the presidency. Its founder and chairman emeritus, High Chief Raymond Dogbesi, told a news conference at the company's corporate headquarters in Abuja this Thursday that he is in possession of private intelligence reports that several employees of the media outfit are being trailed by unidentified gunmen while exiting the office premises. Clearview TV's Rosa Wood was there and our reports.
Addressing newsmen at DAAR corporate headquarters, Dr. C said the NBC had imposed several fines on AIT and Ray Power for its political commentaries, despite the use of editorials and commentaries by media organizations as a standard feature to communicate their positions on issues of public interest.
This government, represented by the National Broadcasting Commission and its various agencies, have pushed this organization to the wall, and I have no choice but come out very publicly to support this institution, which I contributed and devoted my whole life to building and supporting, to stand by it very firmly and defend it. I therefore cannot ignore our regulator, the National Broadcasting Commission today, that is under the leadership of a partisan politician by name Aisha Modibo Kawu, the Director General of the NBC. You all know that he was an aspirant of the APC for governorship of Kwara State before the recently concluded general elections in Nigeria. Is such a person in a position to regulate freely and fairly? Is it devoid of partisan interest in regulating the industry? The fact that he lost his primaries and returned to resume office as Director General of Police, is it in itself not despicable? In spite of the Global Broadcast Network license granted to DAAR Communications plc by General Sani Abacha administration way back in 1994, this Director General of the NBC has stalled the commissioning of our stations in Yola, in Oka, in Sokoto, in Kebbi since 2016 by flagrantly refusing the commission's engineers to inspect the fully built and equipped broadcast facilities for radio and television.
The media mogul also claimed that the perimeter fencing of DAAR headquarters office was demolished by the Federal Capital Development Agency, exposing the property to external attacks.
This government has blackmailed, have called this organization the most unprintable names, to the extent that media agencies, advertising agencies have refused to patronize this broadcasting outfit on the understanding that the government of the day is antagonistic to this government. They have labeled us different types of names. They have demarketed this organization. It is only the goodwill and the grace of God that is still sustaining it.
Dr. Sihu later embarked on a solo protest to the National Assembly, U.S. Embassy, European Union, and the Radio House, all in Abuja City, also lamented the imposition of 500 million naira in licensing fees on private broadcasting organizations, while government-owned broadcasters pay 10 million naira.
The regulatory body, the FCC, in the United States of America, cannot determine the content, nor can it determine the editorial policy of any of the broadcast houses, no matter how small it is, or no matter the county where it is located, before you talk of national networks. And that the effort that is being made at the present moment is an effort to totally take the hands of the clock back by several years. The struggles to be able to get press freedom, to get independence, to get the Nigerian media to mature. So rather than progressing, we are now being made to retrogress.
Ikenga Imo Ugochinyere, spokesperson for the coalition of United People's Party, and human rights activist Deji Adeyonju, who spoke with Clearview Television, condemned the move by NBC and called on the commission to allow press freedom in the country to flourish.
Has to speak out against Kawu. He's just one individual. He's just one single individual that has stolen money according to government record, charged to court by government. So what is he doing in a government agency? He's a rogue until he proves that he's innocent. So to talk about regulating other agencies, talking about those nonsense, I don't understand the basis, the moral right and the constitutional right upon which he's doing all those nonsense he's doing. Those things are nonsense. And I can tell you that the will of the Nigerian people will surpass that nonsense he's doing. There is no shaking. But it's important to raise this issue to the international community and to the whole world, that those days are gone. We have passed those days now. Who survived the Abacha days and all these other days, and they want to talk about one small individual who stole government money and government has charged him to court, talking about shutting down AIT and suppressing press freedom. No.
He who is against your freedom will not allow you to express yourself. And all over the world, leaders, especially leaders who take power by force, the greatest threat to their power is when people speak out. And such leaders are extremely uncomfortable with people or platforms that allows people to express themselves. And tyrants all over the world, they have a pattern. You know, it does not matter whether it be Zimbabwe, it be North Korea, it be anywhere in the world. Anywhere where people decide what people should say, when they should say it, and how they should say it, then you already know that there's tyranny. And like I always say, democracy is about the expression of the people. Anytime you see that the people are afraid of the government, there's tyranny.
As a pioneer investor in the private media industry in Nigeria, Dr. C called on all private broadcast stations to see present challenge as a collective fight and not for AIT and Ray Power alone.
I hope the powers that be will respect the decision of the court.
Okay.
Because from what we have seen since 2015 till date, there are certain people in certain areas and certain places who do not respect court orders, except the ones that they feel they want to respect. And in my mind, the court is supposed to be the final hope of the common man. In my mind, the court is also supposed to be the final arbiter. And therefore, once the court says something, I believe it is out of their wisdom that they have said this. So let's just pray and hope that everything will return to status quo as the court has said. We hope that those concerned will take note and do the needful. Now, coming to the main story, you are not the only one who woke up to that news. But a lot of us would have said, some people said they saw it coming. Because, you know, it didn't just break. It was processes that led to it. And according to what Kawu, the NBC chairman, read, he said there had been repeated warnings. And, you know, yes, in these days of social media, when you mail a letter or when you do a mail to someone and the person feels that he or she is not really comfortable with that mail and seeks advice, he could post the letter on social media for people to see and make comments. And then people read those letters and make comments. I have been opportune to read one or two of the letters that NBC, sent to DAAR communication. And the ones I read and the areas in which I feel NBC was talking about was a segment in their early morning program, the one they call Kakaki Social. And to me and to my mind, to be very sincere with you, I believe that I do not see anything wrong with Kakaki Social. Because if the government or the regulatory body, NBC in this case, feels that whatever is aired on Kakaki Social is teleguided, you have the Twitter handles to go there and check and make verifications for yourself. What I feel a responsive and responsible government should do is that what that young man is doing on AIT within that ambit, within that period of Kakaki Social, is even helping the government because it's getting the impulse of the people. It's trying to show to the government the level in which the government has either degenerated or ascended. For me, I feel his reportage on that segment is balanced because it is not all through you will hear him reading things against or things that appear or sound or look as they are against government. Most of those things that he reads, I believe, are just curated together. It's what he gathers when you have topical issues in Nigeria, and Nigerians begin to throw comments on Twitter here and there, and they tag him, he copies those things and pastes them the way they come. A responsible and responsive government should see that as a propelling factor, as a factor that should guide their decisions, as a factor that should tell them the impulse of Nigerians. What are Nigerians really feeling? Because, you know, when you have, or when you get into office as the chief executive, you realize that as president, he may no longer, you know, be disposed to getting information the way he should get it. Except he's a president that opens his doors and wants to learn and hear everything. The same thing trickles down, even down to the states. The moment a man becomes governor, he reads only what they permit him to read. Because I have seen where newspapers are brought and only certain areas are highlighted. It's like you do literature. They just highlight a particular area and they want you to take your concentration there. But something would have led to something before you read that small part. And you know, these guys probably do not really have time to go into most of these readings. So what they do is they get summaries. Therefore, they are enclosed and caged. So they do not really know or feel the impulse of what people are feeling. I know I heard somewhere somebody who is a chief executive of a state saying, it was a very simple question. He was battling to find out how much, you know, they are selling foodstuff in the market in a state that it is. And in the last administration, I know a minister that was asked, I think the former minister of national planning, he was asked about the foreign reserve of Nigeria, and he was fumbling on national television. These are figures he should have at the fingertip of his hands. But he didn't have it because maybe he wasn't prepared, or maybe it was not just available at that time. Therefore, this young man has created a platform that I feel the government should even encourage. If I were to be in government, I tell you very sincerely, I will encourage that platform. Why? Because it will be sending a message like to me. Yes, it's a feedback. In communication, it's a two-way thing. Once you send the message and the other person receives, you that send should be expecting a feedback. So when government creates policies and programs and send it out there, we wouldn't need the wife of the president to come on national television to tell us that your special intervention program did not work in my state. This young man had said those things long time ago because people were crying. There should be an edition that something like this came up and people commented. So I feel rather than taking that drastic action to go and shut down, because amongst other things that I heard him read, he talked about not payment of taxes or dues or levies or all of that. AIT, as far as DAAR Communication, has not responded to that yet. Yes. So I cannot sit here and say DAAR Communication is owing NBC or not. NBC has claimed that DAAR Communication is owing. Until DAAR says something, I can't comment on that. The one I am commenting on is the one I have seen. Okay. And I feel that when you say they are transmitting hate speech, it is good for you to explain to us what hate speech means. We are living in a country where we know where actually hate speeches do come from. Hate speeches comes from most of the government officials because they do not guard their statements. We have seen where people have made statements like, 5% and 95%. The baboon and the monkey will be soaked in this, and you cannot come here. We heard somebody say in Port Harcourt, kill everybody, shoot them. When they come to attack you, attack them. What else is worse than hate speech? What other hate speech is worse than this? And then when you air it and people hear, still, you do not see that as anything. Just an innocent little program that is, curating and compiling the views, the impulse, the mind of Nigerians, the way they feel about government, and the way they feel about certain government policies. You criticize. A responsive and responsible government should thank that young man.
Okay, let's look at some issues some Nigerians raised to the DAAR Communication issues. Some issues were raised as the issue of salaries. He, as an entrepreneur or someone that's provided opportunity for people to work, salaries payments is still not flowing for the workers, and even the issues of dividends for shareholders, amongst other things, which is one of the issues. Some people are saying, okay, if this will help him, look at a way to sort out these areas. What's your take on that?
Well, for business, to run business in Nigeria is very difficult. It is extremely difficult to run business in Nigeria, especially at these times that businesses are closing down. The business environment is no longer conducive. You and I know that most companies, most industries are closing up, closing shop, and moving to even nearby Ghana, where they feel things are becoming better. In Nigeria, we used to see electricity before. I remember that when this administration came on board, people used to tell me that the body language of the president in 2015 translates to electricity. That just mere seeing President Buhari in office, light has started, we touch our bulbs and then we see light. But today, what we are seeing is totally different. And you need light and other additives to make the business environment conducive for you to thrive.
Okay.
So when you see people in business in Nigeria who sit tight and wither every storm and even have the mind not to lay off people, rather than laying off people, they even admit. Rather than laying off people, they open their doors and employ. No matter how little stipend they give to them to survive. I tell you, we should commend such people. Raymond Dokpesi and his DAAR communication has done fantastically well in terms of labor market. It has taken out a chunk of people. As we speak here today, maybe between 500 to 600 to 700 people with this closure. I wonder how they fed today. Because there are people who work within this system who probably maybe get their own money on daily basis. They get their little stipends on daily basis. So when you shut down such a place, you throw a lot of people into
Okay, I think this will have to leave it at that because of our time. Thank you so much, Mr. Dennis Emmanuel.